Hey, dickheads! Richard here. Excited to be back. Feeling better now. Ready to rock and roll. I am bringing you a side quest, a night of the round table, an Arthurian night. I haven't done one in a while, and I miss doing them. Last one I did was a couple months ago, I think now. And if I remember correctly, the last one we did wasn't even a night. I just did the Saracen King, the father of the other knights we did King Escalabar, and I did it with Christy, so it wasn't me by myself. Today I'm going to be myself though. Before we get into the night we're going to cover today, I am going to let you know about the lie I told you in the King Escalabar thing. I've been doing lies the whole time. I've been doing lies on every episode, trying to add to the lore of these Arthurian legends because there's all lies to begin with. It's I know it served purpose, but I mean it's all lies. It's all made up. So I'm making more shit up. I just want someone to add to the pile. Like I'd love that. I think that would be so fun. So the lie I told last time, before we get into our night for today, yeah, the lie I made up was the big dueling competition that Escalabar was a part of to win the hand of a fair maiden, which never happened. But you know, if it did happen, it wouldn't be a shock if it did happen, because that's what they did back then. Girls didn't have opinions or anything. They just waited for the bloodiest sword to get out of there. Whoever killed the most people, that's who they usually wanted to marry, or they were forced to marry. So I made it try to make it as realistic as possible in that one. And I don't know if I tricked a bunch of you. I didn't hear anybody say that they got tricked by it, but I hope they did. I really do. Today, I will be doing the same thing. I will be adding a made up part of the lore just to see if someone can fucking add it to the actual lore. I would love that. I would think that's so funny if I heard it on a different podcast. It would be my favorite thing. Or like someone wrote an article about Sir Galahad and it threw my line there. Like I would be tickled pink. And I wouldn't even say anything. I'd let it happen because I would love that to be a thing.
An elite team of private detectives.
What if balloons are aliens? Maybe that's the key component we're missing.
Cover-ups.
John's guilty.
Mysteries that need to be solved.
Maybe Mormons need mountains.
Richard, shut up.
So today, we are going to get into another knight. We're going to be covering another one of the lesser known knights named Sir Accolon, or Sir Accolon of Gaul. The Gaul, the a French knight, like many of the other knights, really like Lancelot, Hector de Maris, Sir Lionel, Sir Bors. He was cousins, Sir Accolon, with another knight, whom I will cover another day, I think named Sir Sir Manasseh. Sir Accolon's role in Arthurian history is to basically be a plot device for Arthur's sister, Morgan Le Fay's attempted coup. She tries to use Accolon to assassinate Arthur. And I shouldn't say use, because I think she genuinely loved Accolon, or even liked him. Maybe not loved, but she liked Accolon. Now, Accolon was one of Morgan's lovers after her forced marriage to King Urien of Gore by her brother. Now, if you remember from the King Arthur episode, Gore is a mysterious land, the land of magic, a land of mystery, a land of adventure, somewhere that doesn't exist. It's not like Gaul. Gaul's actually like France today, or France, a little up around Europe in that area. Gore, not so much. Accolon isn't Morgan's first paramour. He is her second, actually. Her first lover was a guy named Guiomar, who was the cousin or nephew, it's unclear, of Guinevere. Guiomar and Morgan had to stop their affair after Guinevere found out about it and had put an end to it. That's another story for another day. We're gonna do a whole thing on Morgan Le Fay and Guinevere at a later date. But let it be known that she wasn't happy with her marriage with King Urien, as you will see very soon. Now, Accolon is one of the more loyal and sympathetic characters towards Morgan Le Fay. He indulges her in her morbid fantasies of killing off her brother and husband and becoming queen. And actually, she wanted Accolon to become king. Under her, of course. She would be like the queen, and he'd be like the first man, the first manly But Accolon did treat her as an equal, and he had a genuine respect for the witch sister of Arthur. Most other men in the Arthurian literature treat Morgan poorly, like most women probably would have been in the 300s or 500s or whenever this happens again. Like I said, one day I'll do an episode of Morgan Le Fay. So we're not going to get crazy into Morgan, but she is a big part of the story. So Morgan didn't have the same respect for Accolon. He had the bigger respect both ways. She, like I said, wanted to trick her lover into killing Arthur, and that's what she tries to do in this little story that I'm about to tell you. The story is written in the early stages of Sir Thomas Malory's Morte d'Arthur. Accolon is hunting together with King Arthur and King Urien, and as they're riding further and further out to chase a great hart or deer they've been hunting, they run so far away that they run their horses to death, which I feel like this happens a lot in Arthurian history. Like I feel like I've heard this a couple times where they just like, fuck the horse, just run. We're getting a hart. I feel like one giant deer is probably worth less than three horses. But whatever. Arthur is the king. He can do whatever he wants, I guess. Well, I can run those horses to death. And they're so far away from Camelot that it actually ends up being what they say is like a 2 day walk back. But that doesn't stop them. They don't have horses, but without the horses, they still have to hunt the hart. They still want to get the hart. They still want to get the deer meat, the venison. So Urien, King Urien, suggests that they continue the hunt until they find lodging for the night. So the three men slowly come upon the great hart, even though it's harder to track now, and it's along a great water bank. Arthur had hunting dogs, brachets, I think it's brachets. They're hounds, and they had the hart cornered at the water's edge, and they're biting at its throat, kind of keeping it in place. And with the great beast cornered, Arthur takes down the deer. As the men celebrate their kill, sitting there, I don't know what they did. Like, did they dip their fingers in the fucking blood and rub it on their cheeks or whatever, like a battle cry? But as they're doing whatever they're doing to celebrate their kill, a little ship approaches them from the water. Being nighttime and being greeted by 12 damsels, the three men decide to enter the small ship. There's 12 little damsels. So the 12 damsels feed the three men a gigantic meal, and when the three men had their fill, the women brought Accolon, Arthur, and Urien to each their own separate lavish sleeping quarters to get a nice rest. And that's what they do. They all go to bed. Problem is, this ship was sent by Morgan Le Fay. It was a trick. The 12 damsels probably should have been the trick, you know? So when they went to bed, the three men woke up all in different places. When Urien awoke, he was back home in the loving arms of his wife Morgan. And he doesn't question this. He's just happy to be home. God, thank God. You know what I mean? Those damsels, help me out here. I think Morgan's got some a reasoning for this, which we'll get to. When Accolon woke up, he found himself in a well, or a fountain, I guess it was. It's kind of like a fountain on the side, and he was kind of buried and kind of in peril of dying. Water was springing from a silver pipe high above him in the marble, and he gathers his wits when he wakes up, kind of like shakes it off, and he notices across from him in the fountain was something that looked like a nest, a straw and mud bed for something big. Really, the creature who'd slept here in this nest was feathered, as their old discarded feathers stuck in the recently dried muck. And as he examined the nest further, he noticed a knight's helmet sticking out from the side of the nest area. So Accolon dug and ripped into the nest, trying to get at the helmet. After a few pulled bundles of muddy straw, he wiggles the helmet free. And once he turns the helmet to see its open face, he sees a half-rotting skull of a knight who had owned the helmet to begin with. Accolon gasps, and just as he lets out his faint sound of fear, a great screech engulfs the air. It'd be cool if I put in like screech sound effects. I don't think I'm going to, but it'd be cool if I did. Sir Accolon had heard the screech before. A couple years back, he and Sir Galahad had been charged with hunting down and killing a harpy who was terrorizing a farmer and his two daughters, two young daughters. Accolon and Galahad had known they were going to harpy hunting, So they took the appropriate equipment, bows, arrows, full armor, nice sword for backup defense. And when they got to the farm, they dispatched the flying screamer handedly and were heroes in the nearby town for a while. But that was back then. That was when Accolon and Galahad prepared accordingly. Not now. Now he just woken up here in the den of a harpy, all his weapons missing, only wearing his leather undergarment. Did the harpy know he was there? Was he going to be the next meal for this harpy? He didn't know. So Accolon thought he was in trouble. So he planned accordingly. He was still groggy from the meal. He was a little tired from just waking up. Another screech fills the air. That'd be awesome. I'm gonna try. But this time it was louder and closer. Accolon had to think fast. So he couldn't really jump out of this thing in fear of being seen. So he decided the only chance he had was to surprise the harpy when it came back to nest. So Accolon digs, keeps digging into the side of the nest, tearing at the long strands of straw. He digs and pulls up out enough to bury himself in the nest, covering himself with the stuff he just pulled. But before he buries himself, he takes the helmet, shakes out the decapitated head, wears it, and buries himself wearing it where the helmet had been found originally. And just as he finishes covering himself, patting himself down, the harpy swoops in. As it looks into its nest, the harpy notices that her supper is missing, and she lets out a huge scream. Screams so loud that Accolon had to hold his screams of pain in from the piercing noise. Just as he couldn't take it anymore, Accolon pounces out from his hiding spot, while the harpy screams its soul out, and Accolon grabs it by its neck from behind. And Accolon puts it in a chokehold and slowly silences the scream of the harpy for good. Dead harpy in arms, Accolon finally rests for a few seconds, out of breath. Once he catches his breath and cleans himself up with the water from the spout up top, Accolon starts to pray for Urien and Arthur to find him. And he makes a solemn promise to himself that he was going to destroy the 12 damsels who'd betrayed him and almost killed him. He didn't know that the boat was a trick from Morgan Le Fay. He didn't know that this came from Gore, the land of mystery. And as he's walking, starting to make his way back to Camelot, he notices a dwarf in the distance. And the dwarf was actually sent by Morgan, sending greetings to her lover, Accolon. The dwarf says that tomorrow, Accolon will have to fight a knight. Morgan had given the dwarf a package to deliver to Accolon. Inside that package was what Morgan told the dwarf was Excalibur, and Excalibur was inside its scabbard. Now, the scabbard, if you remember from the King Arthur episode, was the thing that was actually the powerful thing. It was the thing that would make you invincible. If you had the scabbard on you, you couldn't get cut. Or you could get cut, but you couldn't bleed. So it made you pretty much invincible. Accolon, and this is a quote from one of the sources, which you can find in the show notes. So Accolon, quote, took the dwarf in his arms, unquote, and told him to go back to Morgan and let her know he will do as she asks and fight this mysterious knight. Took the dwarf in his arms. I love it. He just picked him up like a little baby. It's the best. He's like, it's okay, little dwarf. And I wonder if he kissed him on the forehead and sent him back with a little butt tap. Get back. Go tell her. And why can the dwarf make it back? They got shorter legs. Like, why can't he make it back faster than the dwarf? Why can't he travel with the dwarf? Anyways, they part ways. Sir Accolon starts on his long way back to Camelot, and as he walks, he runs into a knight and a lady, Sir Ontzlake. 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 Sir Ontzlake. I might do a Sir Ontzlake episode later. I don't know. I don't think there's enough on him. Ontzlake and his lady had 6 squires. They were nice. They invited Accolon to eat and rest at their manor. Sir Accolon tells him his story and who he is, how he's a knight of the Round Table. And Sir Ontzlake offers up one of his horses, and they head back to the manor for the night. Ontzlake is injured, and he's supposed to fight in a duel the next day. He wasn't going to proceed with the duel because of the injuries. So Accolon thought that this might be what Morgan meant by fight a knight. So Accolon offers to be Ontzlake's champion. Ontzlake knew he was invincible, or sorry. Accolon did this willy-nilly because he knew he had the scabbard and Excalibur, and that would make him pretty much invincible. So why the fuck not? Meanwhile, when Arthur woke up, from his slumber from the 12 damsels. He was in a dungeon at Damas the knight's place. Damas, Damas, D-A-M-A-S, Damas was Unslake's brother. Arthur, being Arthur, while in prison, makes a bunch of friends with all the prisoners. He's very charismatic, the Arthur. Now, the point of this, the whole reason he was even in jail is Damas, he would do this quite often. He'd kidnap knights along the roadway in hopes that they would wake up and help him fight his brother. I don't know if he just found him passed out or if somebody delivered him there, but like his ultimate goal, the knight Damas, was to get whomever he didn't know he was King Arthur, but whomever to help him fight his brother Unslake. The reason Unslake had to duel is because his brother Damas wants his father's manor, the same manor that Accolon enjoyed his benefits. Unslake had taken it after their father's death and would only give it up to Damas if he beats him in trial by combat. Damas knew that he wasn't the best fighter, so he wanted to find himself a champion. So this is the whole point of getting all these knights into his prison. Damas comes to see Arthur in the prison and asks him if he could help. Explains the whole story. After being convinced by his jailmates, his new best friends, Arthur agrees. Like Damas seems like a weird knight to me. That just seems interesting. Like he imprisons people and wants them to help him fight his brother, which that would piss me off. I'd be like, "Fuck you, dude. I'll stay in jail. I'm not gonna help you. Not these guys." And that's even the worst part. These prisoners decide that Damas is a good guy, even though they're in jail, and that Arthur should help. And then they talk him into it. Like it's, anyways. Arthur didn't lose all his weapons. He just got them taken away before he went to jail. He still thought he had Excalibur and the scabbard as well. That he's invincible. So why the fuck not? Unfortunately for Arthur, Morgan had stolen Excalibur months before and had made an exact replica. An exact replica minus magic power. It was just a normal sword. But Arthur didn't know this. Arthur didn't know he was not invincible, so he agrees to help Thomas. So the champions are chosen, and so is the place for a duel. Unslake had actually organized a tournament in the manor, and 12 different knights are there to fight. One of them Accolon, the other Arthur. But both of them both had their helmets down, and no one knew who the champions were. Accolon and Arthur end up being the final two and are set for single combat. Both Arthur and Accolon set up and they charge at each other. And Accolon is getting the upper hand. Arthur is not doing well in battle. He does get a few swipes in on Accolon, which do injure him, but no blood spills. Accolon also gets a few good hits in, not piercing Arthur's skin, but he breaks the sword which Arthur thought was Excalibur and knocks him to the ground. Shocked by Excalibur's demise, Arthur continues to fight, but just with a shield. And Accolon's getting the upper hand, and he has him on the ground, and Arthur's blocking with a shield, and Accolon's going for the death blow when the Lady of the Lake shows up last minute. The Lady of the Lake is the person who gave Excalibur to Arthur to begin with. What I do find interesting about this, they give the name to the Lady of the Lake, which I didn't catch before, which she's a fairy, and her name is Nimue, or Nynaeve. Nynaeve. Nimue or Nynaeve. It's one of the two. But she has a name, and she's a fairy. And Nynaeve or Nimue use their magical power to cause Excalibur to fly from Accolon's hand and into Arthur's hand. And when Arthur gets Excalibur in his hand, he wrestles the scabbard back from the in shock Accolon. Like, where did this come from? And as soon as he gets the scabbard back, Arthur stabs Lake's champion and ends the fight with one deadly blow. Accolon doesn't quite die, but he is mortally wounded, and he surrenders to the other champion. As he lies dying, Arthur pulls off his helmet and realizes that this is Accolon. And Accolon realizes this is Arthur. So devastated, Arthur wants to save his friend's life. Accolon is one of his trusted knights. He loves Accolon. He loves all of his knights, but Accolon is a friend of his. And Accolon didn't know this was Arthur either, and as he lays dying, he asks for forgiveness from his king. Accolon tells Arthur of the plot to have him assassinated by his sister and for them to rule Camelot together as king and queen. Arthur, perturbed by this information, says there won't be any punishment for this act, no repercussions. You have to survive this. I want you to live. Arthur knows where there's a nunnery that he can heal up his wounds, and Damas rides him there as soon as possible. Even though he makes it to the nunnery quickly, they can't save Accolon, and 4 days later, Accolon perishes from his wounds. While the fight is going on at the manor of Unslake and Damas, Morgan is back in Gore, enjoying her time with King Uriel. One night when Uriel is sleeping, Morgan tries to kill him, but she is thwarted by her own child, Yvain. Arthur, on the other hand, when he learns about the plot against his life and after Accolon dies, as a present to Morgan Le Fay, Arthur has the body of Accolon sent to her castle in Gore, which I find morbid as shit, which is kind of fucking cool. He's like, oh yeah, you want to kill me? Here's your lover, bitch. Morgan, Morgan's pissed, to say the least. And later in the story, as revenge for killing her lover, Morgan steals the scabbard again, which I would never leave it laying around if Morgan had already stolen it once, especially around her. But she steals it again, and she takes it and she throws it into an enchanted lake. There is more to that story, and I did tell you about it in the Arthur episode, so you can go back and listen to the King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table full-blown episode. And I probably will talk about it again in the Morgan Le Fay episode later on. But she does get rid of the scabbard, and the scabbard is lost forever. Morgan also later comes across another knight. We talked about him real quick, Sir Manasseh, the cousin I told you about. When she comes across him, he's getting drowned by another knight who claims that Manasseh had committed adultery with his wife. She remembers that Manasseh, is Accolon's cousin, and for the love of him, she saves the drowning knight. And not only does she save him, she enables him to drown his enemy, flip the tables, flip him over into the water. And Manasseh, not a great guy, just does it gladly, just drowns another guy. I love how brutal these times were, and it was so normal to talk about. Sir Accolon dies, Morgan Le Fay on the run, the story of the ages. King Arthur knows he's out for, someone's out trying to kill him, loses his scabbard. So this is Accolon's story. Accolon's there to move forward the plot against him by Morgan Le Fay, and poor Accolon doesn't get to survive in the end. So that's it. That's Sir Accolon. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys enjoy when I do these Knights of the Round Table. I have been getting positive feedback about the Knights. Accolon is lesser known, doesn't have lots of stories, and I'll probably end up doing another one. I'll probably do another one next week. I'll just do a couple in a row for fun. Okay? Thanks for your time, everyone, and keep listening. And if you can, please go to anywhere you can rate podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Just give us a 5-star rating. You know, that'd be very nice. I don't have a Patreon, and I'm not asking for people to go on Patreon, but we do have some of our episodes over on the Unethical Patreon if you want to go hook up onto that one. But really just word of mouth, pass the show around, tell all your friends to listen if you enjoy, and I would be greatly appreciated. I would love to get this show rolling and getting more and more viewers each and every week. So thank you for your time. Keep on being a dickhead, and tally-ho, Knights, tally-ho.
I just watched Private Dicks and I think RJ's the funniest.
What? Come on!